raw and unscripted. KSU. Quick, tactical conversations from the heart of the PowerSports industry. In this business, time is torque. So hit the ignition, twist the throttle, and let's fire it up.
Mark Sheffield. We're back with another interview. These are the most exciting episodes. I think the most enjoyable, personally. But I don't even know. I try to introduce people, and I try to do them justice, but I never can, so let's just bring them on. Tim McDonald, President and CEO of LeadVenture. Tim, welcome to the podcast, man. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Mark. Super excited to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you start and give us, a lot of our listeners, I'm sure, are familiar with Dealer Spike, but give us a little bit of background of yourself and what led you to LeadVenture and where you're at now.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a little bit on LeadVenture too. So we're the parent company of Dealer Spike, a business called Interact RV that serves the RV vertical, Net Driven that serves the tire and wheel space, and Frazier, which serves the used auto space. But Dealer Spike is our biggest business. It is, it's our sort of shining star in the portfolio, something that's very near and dear to my heart. Cool. Yes, a little bit about me and my background. I probably spent half my career in B2C e-commerce, ultimately running Expedia North America. So I was responsible for that business as well as all the product innovation in that business. And then I made a switch to selling software, to building software for businesses and primarily small and medium-sized businesses. And that was at a company called Concur. We were eventually bought by SAP. And then about 6 years ago, the owners of Dealer Spike and the rest of the businesses came and said, "Hey, man, would you like to come and run this business?" And it's been an awesome 6 years.
That's great.
Yeah.
And since we like to have consistency in this show and do everything the same every time, so episode 4,327.
Thanks, Mark. Forgot about that.
So Tim and I actually met probably, I would say, maybe 3-4 years ago, and I had posted probably a pretty unflattering comment about his company on LinkedIn, and amazingly enough, he's probably one of the few that has taken the opportunity to reach out to me and say, "Hey, don't really like what you said. Don't fully disagree. You have some time to talk and chat about it." And, that's kind of led to a little bit of a relationship, I would say, between me and Tim and Dealer Spike and the associated brand. And we've done some projects together. And, it's been kind of interesting to see where things have gone since we kind of started talking. So learned quite a bit about Tim. But, you had your background when you came over to PowerSports. What really kind of surprised you about this industry? Was there something that we were really far ahead of everybody else, or were you just amazed that we were so far behind?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think for the makeup of the industry, I think, and how complex actually, running e-commerce is, and just even consumer online shopping is, I was pretty impressed with how far the industry had actually come. Now, a lot of people will tell you, and myself included, there's a long way to go. But let's look at the typical PowerSports dealer, right? There's no marketing person, there's no IT person, there's no experts in these areas. The companies who are, online and doing really well have, they'll have 100 people. When I was running Expedia, we had probably 200 people and probably $100 million a year invested in just our MarTech stack, just our technology stack to go market out to consumers. So, that's sort of what I love about this business is how do we help, these dealerships, how do we help keep them at the forefront of those consumer experiences without them having to go, hire a marketing VP and an IT person and buying all these expensive technologies out there. How do we provide that turnkey service? So you guys can focus on what's really important, most important, which is the customer experience.
Yeah, today we spend a lot of time managing our OEs, and I would like to get back to managing that customer experience.
Yeah.
Kyle?
So Dealer Spike in general, Tim, what's the core job, or is it a combination? So is it a primary website provider, a lead gen platform, a digital retail company, a marketing partner, or is it all of those, or something even broader?
Yeah, it's all of those and more, right? The simple goal is we want to be that turnkey service so that a dealer doesn't need to go hire a marketing person, doesn't need to go hire an IT person. If they don't want to, doesn't need to go hire a marketing agency, right? We want to be that turnkey provider for them so that they can focus on, helping their customers and managing that customer experience. So whatever the dealer needs in there, that's sort of what we're focused on. We got started early with websites, but we've built a lot on top of that, and we continue to plan to build more on top of that to make it easier and help that dealer grow without a lot of investment.
So two-part question for you. So part
Yeah.
one, what do you think Dealer Spike does really well?
Yeah, I think, that's, look, we're not, you, Mark, you've been super helpful to us. I can't thank you enough for all the feedback you've given us directly and helped us get, right, from the broader industry, because we are certainly far from perfect. We've got a lot that we can improve upon, and we are heads down focused on that. But in terms of what we do well, I think, look, I'd say the best way to measure that is a huge portion, some 40% of customers dealers who do leave us, ultimately come back. And why they come back is because very few providers can provide, has the breadth of capabilities that we do. So, you can pick like a very narrow lane, but if you look at the totality of what we can enable, right? It's really a complex system that enables things from inventory management and OEM data and integrations and inventory syndication and OEM co-op eligibility and SEO and digital marketing services and consumer shopping services and et cetera and et cetera. And we enable that regardless of which of the over 300 OEMs that you provide. And so it's, I contrast that with the auto industry. The auto industry, you can serve one OEM, you get to go serve all of those dealers that sell that one OEM. All of the data is standardized across the industry. I mean, I don't want to throw shade at those guys, but that's a way easier problem to solve, right? You've got standardized data. You've got one provider that you can go, or a couple of providers you can go buy that data from. You've got 2 or 3 DMSs to integrate with, and that's it. And you have one OEM per dealer, right? And so it's a much simpler problem to solve. I'm sure it's got its own complexities there, but it's the breadth and the totality of what we're able to enable. And so we'll see, lots of dealers say, well, I liked what they were telling me, but when I actually got it in place and tried it, it couldn't actually do what we used to use Dealer Spike to do. So
About, maybe 4 months ago, you and I started talking after I got out of the 20 group game, and you had asked, hey, would I be interested in working with you and some dealers to kind of identify some of the issues that exist in the industry, and not only in the industry, but in the relationship between dealers and Dealer Spike. And when I went out and talked to a few of my friends about it, they all said that I was crazy and that, this was a big problem that probably was maybe not even fixable. And so I like a good challenge. And so I said, yeah, why not? Let's give it a shot. So, talking about what Dealer Spike does good, but can you kind of talk about a little bit about, what you think the shortcomings have been of Dealer Spike and what you're doing to address those right now?
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Look, I think, you asked your friends that question at probably one of our lowest points. We made some real big mistakes starting a year and a half ago. We made some big shifts in how we're staffed and in our org structure, and we really messed up. And so we went through a real long period of really subpar customer service, taking way too long to get back to dealers on simple things, taking way too long, having to change out account managers across our customer base. And it's just, it became a real pain point. The thing that we heard the most during that period was, lack of responsiveness. Like, it's taking forever for you guys to get back to us. and I'm tired of the rotating seat for my account manager. Like I need one account manager and I need that person. And so that was something where we really shot ourselves in the foot, and we have been running like crazy. We've probably hired 300 people over the last year and a half to really bolster that up and get actually well beyond wherever we were before. Even in the best of days, we have way more people and way more capabilities. And now we're investing in the tools to make sure that those people are super responsive, and that, we're enabling people to actually solve problems on behalf of the dealers and do so in a much tighter time frame. So we're really excited about that. But yeah, we've got a reputational hit that we've now got to make up, because that year and a half to 2 years was really, really painful. And something that we really regret. I'd say the other thing is that, ever since I came here, I looked at what we were doing and I saw, man, there's so much opportunity for us to create more value for dealers. And so, this is the one that I own them all, but this one in particularly I own because I've been beating this company up for 6 years on, we need new product. We need new product, more product, more product. Like, let's come up with new capabilities for our dealers. Let's create more value for them. And so that's really been the primary focus for us. And, and now in hindsight, what I see is, and I'll come full circle back to, what we need to do better, is, we thought we were doing better in terms of the dealer experience than we really were. And we misread that. I misread that. And so I'd say, if I were to go back and do it again, I would have focused less on developing new product, and I'd focus more on making it much easier to use our existing product and much easier to deal with, interact with us. So we're making a huge shift on that front. This year is all about, we've got like 1 or 2 new things coming. Last year we did like 15 new products. This year we got like 1 or 2 new things coming. And the vast majority of our resources are going against how do we improve that dealer experience in dealing with us, whether it's with our product or whether it's with our customer success team or whether it's with our technical support team. And we're doing some really, really cool stuff there.
Not often you get that kind of honesty in the industry. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I think, guys, I think, one of the things that you've been so helpful with, Mark, is helping us get more feedback and finding our blind spots. We talk to customers every day, but we don't, we still are pretty blind in terms of where those pain points are, because they're not coming through in the communications or the notes that we're taking. We had a great dealer advisory council that you ran for us last month, and got a bunch of feedback on DMS integrations, and we were like, all right, let's go chase this down, man. We're going to go find the root cause of these problems. And we ran them down, and we found out there was 0 tech support cases opened and 0 product issue. It was configuration issue. It was, it was the data cleanliness. It was the setup. It was the, on one case, it was the DMS itself. And so, and the team came back and like, well, there is no root cause. We can't find a pattern here. And I said, no, the pattern's real clear. There's a bunch of concern with the DMS integration out there that we didn't know about. It doesn't matter that it wasn't a technical issue, right? It matters that we didn't know about it. So how are we going to start getting our finger on the pulse so that we can identify these problems and knock them out as soon as they come up?
Cool.
It might be too early to tell, Tim, but percentage-wise of dealers being unhappy now versus a year and a half ago, what's the landscape of that? How has that changed of actual product issues versus customer experience, customer service issues? Have you seen those results already since you've made those changes?
What I'll say is, and this is something I always tell my team, the most vocal voices out there often get misconstrued as the majority. And, if you look at our data, and I'm happy to share this with you, the vast majority of our customers are very happy with DealerSpike. That's not good enough for us though, right? Like we need 90-95% of the people to say, yeah, like, I would recommend this to others. And so we're not there, but the vast majority are actually very happy and really enjoy working with us. So I want to set that stage because we're still focused on the ones who are not, right. That's what we've got to solve. And I'd say, yeah, like the staffing I mentioned, right. Our turnaround times are way better. Our account management, customer success coverage, and consistency way better. And so we're seeing way better customer satisfaction with technical support, customer satisfaction with customer success. I think that, but we're going, what I always tell my team is where we were, 3-4 years ago is not the target. Like we've got to get so much better than that. And so, yeah, so we're starting to see it, but we're still launching. Like we're still very much in the midst of this. We just launched a really cool AI tool that, customers will never interact with, right? Unless someday maybe they want to. But right now, the majority of tech support cases that come in, AI is telling our people, here's the problem and here's the solution for you to go do. And it's just cutting out all of this time that the team was spending diagnosing before. And so we're back to pretty good turnaround times, but it's going to get even better. And this is all sort of building up towards, frankly, I don't want to be giving away too much, but we're going to completely just relaunch the business to the marketplace with some really strong promises and guarantees. And we're not going to say anything until we're convinced that we can stand behind them. But we really believe that we can stand behind some really strong, guarantees around responsiveness and uptime and, inventory accuracy, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're really excited. And that'll be something that's going to come later this year. And we're going to, hopefully get a lot of people's attention with, because we really want people to understand, this is not the dealer spike that you knew before at all.
It's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to sprinkle like a scenario and intersperse 3 questions here all at once.
Okay.
So
All right.
strap in and hold on.
Yeah.
Maybe a month ago when we had the first Dealer Spike PowerSports Dealer Council, and you had your chief product officer came in and he started to do a presentation about some of the initiatives and projects that are being worked on right now. Mm-hmm. And pretty quickly we got cut off by the dealers, and they're like, all this is great, but let's just fix the basic things that are broken today and have been broken for a while. And when all of that gets taken care of, let's work on this other stuff. And that kind of stuck in my head that, I think that a lot of us dealers have kind of got used to, just working around certain problems. And then yesterday I attended, or the day before yesterday, I was invited as a guest to attend Hero Hub's first 20 group meeting up in Idaho Falls, which you drive to the end of the world and then keep going. And you finally get there. And I felt like we were kind of in the set of the new Star Wars movie. It was just that far out there. But, we were, LeadVenture had put together a state of the industry product, kind of talking about what's going on the digital landscape. And I was asked to just present that to the dealers. And so we were kind of talking about that, and we were talking about other things. And in the middle of that, when I was talking about something that Lightspeed was doing, and one of the dealers said, all this is great, but why can't they just spend some time and energy fixing the basic things that are broken today that have been broken for a long time? And so, it's become very aware to me that, at some point in time, we got to fix the foundation for the tools that we have available to us today. And I've also written about this online, and it's a huge frustration of mine that when people reach out to me, and especially the ones that I'm really concerned are the team that we have at our dealership. In so many cases, I just get an email that says, hey, this feature isn't working. And there's no background. There's no, here's what I was doing. Here's what I clicked. Here's where I was at. Here's a screenshot. And then the first thing that I have to do in every one of these cases is turn around and say, I need more information. If you want me to help you, you got to help me help you. And so kind of my 2-part question to you here is, and I know there's probably, like, financially, there's not a big return on just going and fixing some of those basic things. but how do you justify going back and doing that? And what is the best way for dealers to let you know that a problem exists? Because I think in a lot of cases, and this, not trying to badmouth Lightspeed, but in a lot of cases, when you got a problem in Lightspeed, it's because you got a customer in front of you. You're working with a customer, and you can't just, oh, hold on a second, I got to call support because his pop-up window has come up here, and they wanted to see it in action. So can you give me 10 minutes, and then I'll be right back. And I know you're in a rush, but this is more important than you. And so I think, and you alluded to it as well, in that as we're sitting down and we're talking to dealers, you're finding out a lot of things that you didn't really know existed because nobody had ever said anything. They'd just been like, this is the product and that's the way it works, and I'll just live with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think the justification for investment and fixing things like that is massive. It is way more valuable to us, way more valuable to invest dollars, time, effort, and resources in things that help us keep our customers happy than it is in investing in new product, for sure. And the things that we've identified that are, sort of what we know are some gaps that have got to go get addressed. Like, we're running at full speed at those things. I think one of the real challenges that we face is that there aren't that many global, like, this is broken sort of things. Like, if it's a global sort of like, this is broken, and it's broken for 100 dealers, like, those things get fixed right away. Those are just bugs and they get crushed. Like, our bug list on our platform right now is actually pretty damn small, smallest I've ever seen at any company, because we take that so seriously. What we find, and this is really common for a company like ours, I've seen this in past lives, which is every single dealer has a different setup. And that setup is it's a pretty complex system, right? Oftentimes it includes a DMS, includes a CRM, it includes OEM requirements, it includes, a bunch of different things, a lender here, this there, maybe it's an agency, maybe it's another product that we offer. So there's a bunch of things that have to come together to work really well. And, what I'll tell you is 95% of it works really well. The things that we see when we hear that sort of dealer frustration, most of the time, they're pretty unique to that dealer configuration. The way they've got their CRM set up, or the way they've got their Lightspeed set up, or the way that they've got us set up, or all three. And so, that's where I think our biggest opportunity is to get much closer to understanding where the unique dealer's frustration point is, and how do we solve that? Because we have been focused on, how is our product working? Is our product working great? Yeah. If there's no setup problem, our product working great. Like, there's some stuff that we're doing that's going to make it even better, right? Like, you followed us. Like, we're using something we're super excited about. We're using AI now to match the inventory in your DMS to our inventory database. So, you using our DMS integration, you're going to have very few units that you actually have to manually match, because the AI has been so good at being able to match it for us. We have like 95% match rates of inventory from your DMS into our backend. So stuff like that's really exciting. But, I go back to that advisory council meeting. That was not the issue. That was not the issue that those dealers were expressing frustration around, right? They were expressing frustration about the unique situations that they were facing based on the total system that they had set up. And so, the answer, and I, not to beat up, but this happens too. We get blamed a lot for something that somebody else is doing wrong, right? And that's still okay. We still have to go solve it for the customer, because we want them to think of us as we're their provider, right? No matter what other systems they're using, we'll go work with them. We never have a, the example in the dealer advisory council, it was a problem with their DMS, and we just went to their DMS and said, hey man, you got to go fix this. So that's we want to play that role for dealers. But I think what we've got to get much better at is surfacing those frustration points, because you nailed it, Mark. For the most part, it's friction in the system, and I can work around it. I can get through it. I've got too many other important things to worry about than to try and spend time with DealerSpike identifying and fixing this. And that's bad, right? Like we've got to find a way to actually get that information back from the dealers so that we can understand and fix those problems at the dealer level. It's 90% of it's going to be at the dealer level, not at the platform level. And I think that's going to be some really exciting application of technology as well. You know, and there's stuff that we can go leverage today, you know, even without AI, you know, but I mean, 15 years ago when I was running Expedia, you know, we recorded every user session on Expedia, and that was millions of sessions a day, but we could go see exactly what a user did, right? We got to start putting in place like that. So we're not relying on the dealer to have to, you know, send us a long email or create notes or, you know, schedule a meeting with their customer success rep. We got to start pulling that information ourselves and identifying it on behalf of the dealer.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption by Mark's cat. He had to give her a treat, apparently.
That's another drinking game too, though. She'd be out twice. So
I thought
two
he
shots.
was getting some potato chips. I thought he was hungry or something there.
No, this podcast is brought to you by Temptations. So a sweet afternoon treat for your kitty cat.
Yeah, yeah.
Tim, you mentioned a lot of AI that you guys are implementing more internally. But what about AI tools for dealers? Are you guys have anything coming? Are you guys is that
so you guys
too
know,
early
right?
to talk about?
No. My background is in B2C e-commerce, right? And so I love the application of AI for the consumer experience because it's going to enable, and the thing is, like, it's cheap, right? And so we're going to be able to enable things that, I mean, I don't want to toot our own horn here, but we've got an AI product that's live with, I don't know, it's not enough, only like I think 20 dealers in PowerSports right now, that we launched before Amazon did, and I'll put ours against Amazon's any day because ours is so much better. And it's just an agent that you can ask questions about the product, right? So if you're looking at a dirt bike, you can we call it our AI product expert. You can go and ask the expert about the bike. Now, that's cool for a consumer, but you know, from a dealer's perspective, the way I think about it is that's what the consumer is going to go do regardless. Like they're going to go open a tab in Google, right? And they're going to go look up that dirt bike or that motorcycle or whatever it is that they're shopping for. And they're going to go do a bunch of research on it. And then that path, who's to say that they're not going to find that same vehicle at another dealer? Right. So like, why make them go do that work? Why not enable that experience right on your site and let them do all their research and ask all their questions? But then you can also then start to refine it, right? So that it's answering questions, first of all, based on, you know, all the data that we have based on that vehicle. And then, you know, what the dealer considers trusted third-party sources. Because we all know, right, there's a bunch of crap out there on the internet that you should not be trusting. But we can go say, all right, well, what are the user forums that, you know, the dealer says, yeah, I trust what people are saying on that forum, right? Who are the trade pubs, the review sites that, you know, I trust what they're going to say, and that's good. So it really winds up benefiting both the consumer and the dealer. And that's something that we're super excited about. It's just a free feature. But, you know, I think as Mark has realized, one of our other challenges is that we do a whole lot of stuff and enable a whole lot of stuff that is free, or maybe it's a moderate upcharge. We don't do a good job educating dealers on what's available to them. So that product I just talked about, it's been available for 3 or 4 months right now, and I think we might have 20 dealers have it turned on. We talked about it at our dealer council. I love this. The dealers came in just guns a-blazing. They're like, if you're going to come and talk to us about all your AI products, like, we're out of here. We're not going to invest time in this if you're just going to come and pitch new AI products to us. And we're like, okay, we hear you. And then, God bless him, our Chris Warner, our chief product officer, went straight into, well, here's our AI products. But the end result was they're like, yeah, we need to get that turned on, right? And so that's one of our challenges. And Mark can attest to this. We'll have a lot of conversations with Mark, and he'll be like, why don't you guys do that? I'm like, oh, Mark, we do that. Like, how do we better educate our customers on what's available and what we do? That's a tough one.
Yeah, when one of the questions I got asked is, you know, what's been kind of eye-opening since I've been working with LeadVenture and DealerSpike for the last 6 months, and I was like, I had no idea you owned all these different companies. So it was really kind of surprised about all the options and availability of different things that are out there. But I want to circle back to kind of the product discussion for a little bit. And, based on my time running 20 groups for almost a decade, one of the things that I found, and maybe this is a strength, maybe it's a weakness, and I'll talk a little bit about Lightspeed here, but there's a lot of different ways that you can use Lightspeed to achieve the same outcomes. And I think that over time, what happened with Lightspeed is that they had, a group of dealers that were loud enough that they influenced Lightspeed adding some other pathway to get to the same endpoint. And that's made that system very, very complex. And, I think that for a long time, even me, I was just kind of, yeah, okay, there's different ways to do things. You get the same output. I'm okay with that. But I think today we've got so much technology that's layered into what we do that for years and decades, we never really could figure out that this truly is the best way to do something. But I would say today that we can analyze a lot of different processes and in almost every case go, yeah, there's 10 different ways to do that, but this really is the best way to do that. And, one of the biggest struggles that I still have today with the dealers that I work with, and I'm very selective on who I choose to work with. And that's really kind of based on discussions with the team about how open are they to trying new things. Because I can go to somebody all day and go, here's how you're doing it. Here's a much better way to do it. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of a little bit of pain to make these changes. It's going to be some work, but you're going to have better outcomes. You're going to be more efficient. You're going to be more productive. And I think some of that kind of ties into the problems that we've been having with that whole vehicle matching. And, you think about a bike like a Suzuki GSX-R. You've got some dealers that when they put that into Lightspeed, it's just GSX-R 600, no dashes, no spaces. You got some dealers that have spaces in there. Some dealers have dashes. Some dealers aren't even consistent. You could look at 5 kicks or 600s in their system, and every one of them's got a different model code. So, that is a big problem to overcome in, not having these standards. And so you're trying to build this system that accommodates all these different ways that dealers operate. And I think really my question for you is, how do you draw the line at Dealer Spike? And when a customer comes to you and says, here's how I do this, can you accommodate me? When do you say, okay, we're going to build that out, versus when do you look at the customer and go, you know what, we got 3 other ways to do that. And I understand why you want to do it this way, but there truly are what we perceive to be better ways to do it. When do you draw that line and just go, you know what, we're just not going to add every button and switch to the dealers want to the system?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mark. And that is a problem that exists in every industry I've been in. And I, personally have had to pay the tax of companies in their early periods. My last company, when it was a startup, right? They couldn't afford to say no, right? They said yes to anything anybody wanted. And so the end result was a platform that was so configurable that it was almost impossible to use, right? And so that's a challenge that a lot of companies face. And I would say in our case, we have a bit of that. But how do we make the decision on going forward? It's actually pretty straightforward. One, I would say the beauty is the vast majority of requests that we get, the platform's flexible enough for us to just go and do it. So we don't have to go get our development team to do it. Our tech support team can go, write a little snippet of, our tech support teams, unlike tech support teams in most other companies, because our tech support teams are actually technical. They can actually go write a snippet of code, pop it onto your site, show it to you, say, is that what you need? And so our platforms are flexible enough that we can meet most of the dealer's needs without creating a lot of technical debt, although it does, it can complicate the setup for the dealer for the more that they ask for stuff like that. But we can accommodate that. It's the feature functionality requests where dealers might have something specific that they want in a core feature or a new core feature. And what my mandate to the team is, and this is what really helps keep the system simple, is it's whatever you design, it cannot require the dealer to manage it. So if you're building a new feature, it has to be set and forget. Because, a developer, the easiest path for a developer when they run into the question of how should this be set up, the easiest answer is make it configurable. And if everything's configurable, then there's no right way to set anything up. And you're basically delegating the product design to the customer at that point. And I hate that. And so we take a pretty hard line with our product development teams here and saying, no, what's the best path? And you can build a little bit of configurability into it, but you got to determine the best path. And it's got to be something that you're not expecting the dealer to have to go into regularly and update or change or optimize or anything, because, and that's been a pretty big shift over the last few years. So that's one. And then I think the other is, it does come down to, if there's a very specific feature functionality, we look at everything and we say, okay, is that something that's going to benefit, a lot of our customers? And if not, then we have to weigh that against the other things that we're building that will, right? And so we look at the relative value that it's going to create for each individual customer and then the customers at large. And it's just a question of, we don't ever say no, it's just a question of when, I'll give you an example. Like we know we have to build out the capability for dealers to be able to bundle products together, right? There are dealers who, especially in marine, they want to bundle a boat and a motor and a trailer, right? And we've got to do that, and it's on our roadmap. I think we're targeting getting it done end of this year, but that's something we've known about for a few years, and we're just like, it is valuable, but there's so many other things that we had to do, like a lot of the fundamental platform cleanup that we had to prioritize over that. And so it's just relative value and prioritization that way.
I really like to, and I think a lot of people don't understand why I do things like this. But I build a lot of reports for dealers in Lightspeed, and I built a lot of spreadsheets and things for people over the years. And like a simple example, if somebody wants a spreadsheet that shows their current year inventory, a lot of times a person will just build a formula that says year equals 2026, and I'm going to build a more custom formula that says year equals now, and then it's going to extract the current year out of the current date, so that next year when they run that report, it's not out of date. And I think that just a lot of people don't understand that little bit of work that you put in up front makes things timeless, and that's always been really important to me. And it does take more time to build things like that, but I tend to find that dealers get a lot more value out of those products over the life of them.
100%. I think, and that's unfortunately, that's a lesson that startups often learn too late, right? They do a fantastic job when they've got 50 customers, but then they get to 200, and then they've just been sort of hacking their way through servicing those customers, and then 3 years later they're like, oh shit, why does the date still say 2024?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It takes discipline. It takes discipline.
I always try to use variables.
Yeah.
Kyle?
No, that's great. I was taking some good notes. For Tim, you probably don't know, I'm in we're in the analytics and reporting business. So we tap into the dealer's DMS on the automotive and PowerSports side, and we provide reports and metrics, industry averages for the industry. Yeah. But we're I've been with the company for a decade now, but we still have that startup mentality, right? So what you said though about the configuration enhancements, I was taking some good notes there because you're spot on there, and it's a battle that I have tried to overcome for the last couple of years, and we're getting a lot better at it. So thank you for sharing that, because that was really, really good. In your opinion, in your view, I'll shift a little bit here, but what's one or two practical things that a dealer can do right now to get more value out of their website and their digital presence?
Yeah, I would say, for our customers, call your customer success rep, or just email them and say you want a consultation. Like that's what they're here for, right? That's their sole purpose for being is to do a site review or a setup review and walk through everything that you've got and understand what what you think is working well, and then they've got tons of data on and they'll tell you what they think is working well. So that's the first step is just get a consultation, and we'll do a site audit and review with you. And then I think it really sort of depends what your goal is, right? There are dealers who are, they're happy with the current, leads and demand that they're getting, and they're looking to save money. Call us, right? Please call us, right? That's one of my biggest frustrations is when I see a customer leave for a lower price and we're like, we offer packages of all sizes. Like we can match that price of that lower, that competitor, because they're not offering you everything that you're paying us for right now. I had a great conversation with one of my local dealers this summer. I went in to see him and I'm like, man, what are you doing paying us $800 a month? Like it's him and one service tech. Like you don't need $800 worth of stuff from us, and we had a great conversation and we got him way down. But it was really interesting too, because there was stuff that I didn't think he would need. And he's like, no, I don't want that. I want that. And so those are the kinds of conversations we want to have with dealers. So if you want to save money, we've got great ways to go do that. If you want to drive a bunch more leads, well, then we've got, lots of conversations we can have, and we can show you what best practices are and what the latest technologies are and what the latest tools are. We've got some really, great stuff that frankly dealers aren't taking advantage of. And obviously, like, the last thing is we've got some great stuff that our customers are not taking advantage of that is free. And that's what pains me the most. Like, give it a call. Let's go walk through that together. And we're calling our dealers too, but lots of times, the dealers are too busy to take the calls. And so I'm not saying it's on the responsibility of the dealer to call us. I'm saying next time we call you, please answer and let's spend some time together.
Yeah, open communication is so vital. I mean, Mark, you talk about it all the time, even with your OEMs. You got to pick up the phone and try to find a solution before you just run to a different provider. I think that's so vital in this space.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
You've talked a little bit already about, the overwhelming majority of dealer Spike customers are happy with the product. Me as a GM at the dealership, I think that we can look back and go, we've been in business for 20 years. We're profitable. We've continued to grow. Big picture, I think that's kind of an outward sign that we've been successful. But as a GM, still personally, the customers where we made mistakes, we dropped the ball, or even if the customer made a mistake and then we didn't handle that correctly, those situations still inhabit an oversized area of my mind. Yeah. And it's easy for me to remember the things that we screwed up and dwell on those way more often than I do all the customers who we gave them the right product at the right time and they had an excellent experience with their family. And I don't really like using that phrase, we changed people's lives, but I think we enhanced their experience while they exist here on the planet. How today are you measuring the overall sentiment of dealer Spike customers, and what's kind of your score, your report card that says we are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we do NPS surveys, we do CSAT surveys. Dealers are too busy to give us enough feedback on those. So like our response rate on those are nowhere near where it needs to be. But part of that is on us because we're not making it easy for the dealer to answer those. So we're making some changes to get more feedback that way. And then, I'll use the Dealer Spike brand in particular. Like we're building out a customer scorecard, which goes beyond just sort of the NPS and CSAT metrics when you interact with us. But like, if you were a customer, right, how would you grade us, right? And you're going to grade us on, are we generating the leads that you need, right? Are we easy to deal with when you call, and are we responsive? Are we can you easily get changes made to the products when you need them made, whether you do it yourself or whether you ask us to do it? Are we up all the time, right? Are we getting back to you, in less than 24 hours, ideally in less than an hour when you need something? So are we getting, we getting you new OEM data, within a day, ultimately within an hour? We've got to start grading ourselves on that. So we're in the process of creating a customer scorecard, which frankly looks very different than a lot of the things we're measuring ourselves on today. And a lot of that's going to be qualitative. We've got great quantitative metrics, right? Like the NPS scores and the CSATs and all that. And so we'll use those, but I worry that just looking at those kind of leaves, as we're finding, some of the customer pain points that we're not, seeing. Like, Mark, you and I have talked about, like, you've had to wait way too long sometimes for new OEM data, and and that just wasn't showing up in our data, right? And so we're going out and saying, and we're going to get your feedback on it, Mark, but what are the 5 to 7 things that matter the most from an experience level for the dealer, and how do we just make sure that we're nailing those all the time? And we're going to stand behind it. Like, we're going to put some teeth behind and put our dollars behind that, and say, if we're not meeting it, then there's going to be repercussions for us, and we're going to make it right, whether it's financially or however we do it.
You're going to buy like one of those big cannons and put the reps in there who have low scores and just shoot them out in the.
I mean, we've been doing that for a long time. Yeah, we've been doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe, we should put some YouTube videos out on that. I think that might go viral.
Tim, in the next 5 years and even beyond, if you want to go that far, where do you see PowerSports retail industry going?
My crystal ball is not that great, but here's what I see. I don't see some sort of massive shift in distribution of PowerSports vehicles. I think that what I foresee is a massive shift in the tools that dealers use, and that shift it's primarily going to come in ease of use, right? I think that there's certainly a bunch of value that we can create with brand new gee whiz bang experiences and for consumers, and that's for sure going to happen. But to me, I walk into a dealership and I see everybody running around with their hair on fire, and they're doing that, and then they're expected to go, like, manage or deal with the service providers. And I think that that's one of the biggest opportunities for AI, is to make the interaction between the dealers and the service providers either A, unnecessary, ideally unnecessary, but B, if it is necessary, just so much easier, right? Like, we're going through a process right now where we're redesigning the admin panel for Dealer Spike, make it just much more intuitive and easy to use. But I'm sort of pushing the team on, okay, guys, like, we have to go do that. But is the right answer in the next month some UX redesign, or is the right answer in the next month an AI agent that you just go have a conversation with around what you want to change, and it shows you where it is, or it makes a change for you, right? Because absolutely, we got to there are people who are always going to want to use our admin panel to make changes themselves. They're what we call in the industry power users, right? But there are some people who don't want to have to learn. They're going to go in there once a month. This is not something they're going to do regularly. So why are we expecting them to, even with a better admin, have to go do this stuff? Why don't we just, make it super easy? Just type into a box and we'll show you exactly what to go do. So I think but the first point was, how do we leverage AI so that the stuff that the dealer's expected to do today becomes, they don't have to do it, right? How do we deploy an agent on every single customer instance? Not an agent that looks across, but an agent inside that customer specific instance that's proactively looking for, is this the best configuration? Is this the right setup? What's working, what's not? It's not going to be perfect, but I'll bet that it's going to uncover a lot of things that we can go fix or optimize without the dealer ever having to call us. So that's sort of how I think about it. I don't see, there's other conversations around, like, our OEM's going to go direct. No, I don't believe that for a second. I don't think that there's going to be any sort of fundamental shift in how in the structure of the industry. But I do think that we're going to make people's lives who work at a dealership a whole lot better. That's what I see coming.
Great answer.
You inhabit a unique space between the dealer and the OE, and on the OE side, some business partners to their dealers, and some, as I call them, vendors. They're just exist to provide products and not really much else. Maybe even slow the dealers down in a lot of cases. And but I think that you also need to represent both parties. I don't think you can alienate one or the other. You really need to be that counterweight between the two. And one of the things that I've said over the last 5 years, because the manufacturers keep asking for access to more and more and more of our data. They want in the DMS, they want on our website. And I'm on the record as saying that in a lot of cases, when the manufacturer comes to us with some new contract for some new program, we really need to be Mirandaized, or however you say that. I'm probably it's anything you share can and will be used against you. I truly believe that that's the case. And I think the manufacturers in a lot of cases are asking for way too much. But, you're also in a position, I think, where you can kind of help to draw that line and tell the manufacturers, yeah, I know you want access to all of this. And even if a customer comes to the dealer's website and asks for information about brand Z and your brand A, I'm not going to give that to you. I'm only going to give you the data that pertains to your brand, because that's all you really need access to. So how are you kind of drawing that line, and how are you protecting dealers? Because I've seen a lot of these agreements, and in a lot of cases, manufacturer hands it to the dealer and the dealer goes, okay, yeah, whatever, not realizing, not understanding what they just signed.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. It's, and I, we do a lot of business with OEMs, and I constantly remind our people, and this is the first thing that I say to an OEM when I meet them, when we talk about our strategy and how we might be able to help them. I will tell them, we exist to help dealers. So while we're here talking about how we can help you, we are never going to do anything that doesn't also benefit the dealers. And we are certainly never going to do anything that would in any way, shape, or form possibly hurt the dealers. And I it's funny because I always, we have our mission statement internally, and we always talk about our why and why we're here. And every once in a while, our OEM team sort of recraft that in their OEM decks. Like, we're here to serve dealers and OEMs. And I beat them over the head. And I'm like, you take that out right now. All right. Yeah, they're our customers, but they are not the reason we exist. They never will be. And I love our OEM partners. They're fantastic to work with. And we have great programs with them that help them, but ultimately benefit the dealers at the same time. And that's the win-win. And so we're super excited about that. But it's just important that our people understand, like, and because it can be easy, right? You get into it and it can be easy to be like, well, that seems like a fair request. I will tell you this. We draw the line all the time. But what I'll tell you is that when we're drawing the line, I've never yet seen it be sort of a malicious intent on the other side. I've always seen it as people didn't really understand what they were asking for. And so we'll go back and we're like, hey man, like, we're not going to share that data, and here's why. And when they get the why, we're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And so, yeah, there's data that we won't share. We won't do stuff without dealer approval. Sometimes we actually say, not only is it good enough that you just put something in front of the dealer, like, we need the dealer to tell us that it's okay for them to do that with you. So we do take that very, very seriously, because that's the reason we're here. 100%. I hate to throw unders under the bus, but I will tell you this. I wish everybody in the industry took that line, because we don't share stuff with OEMs, and they get frustrated with us and they'll say, because everybody else does. And I'm like, well, that's just a bad idea.
Right.
I got to think, and not just think, I know that this is going on. It's still going on today, but you think about the CDK hack that happened a couple of years ago. And, that's CDK, your DMS provider, and they get hacked by a third party. And to this day, dealers are still getting sued over that, because the dealer allowed them to access their data. And the dealer thought, I don't have any liability to this. But the reality is, in this day and age, that whoever's got the deepest pockets is going to be forced to pay. And so I think that a lot of power sports dealers aren't even thinking about it in that light, that if I give this manufacturer access to my DMS, if I give this manufacturer access to my website and they get hacked, I'm going to have some legal liability, because the agreement that they signed doesn't put all the weight back on the manufacturer. It doesn't indemnify the dealer. It actually drags the dealer into those legal situations.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's not our primary motivation, but it is, it's certainly something that we look out for as well, because I don't care what it says in any of the contracts. If something goes wrong, like, we're going to get named. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that we've signed the most ironclad agreements with everybody. We're still going to get named. And so, but that's not our motivation. Our motivation is just doing right. But for sure, yeah, we watch out for that as well.
Good. I got one more, Tim.
Yeah, please.
You might have a couple, Mark, but you talked early in the conversation about the differences, or a difference between the automotive and the power sports industry. And between me and Mark, it's a hot topic. We constantly talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from the automotive to power sports, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. So in your eyes, what is maybe one good thing, one bad thing that the automotive industry has given to the power sports industry in your specific realm? Obviously, what's one thing that you can touch on, either good or bad, or maybe both, from the automotive space that has trickled over to the power sports space, or made its way to the power sports that you can touch on?
Yeah, I think I think probably the things that we've benefited from the most is that it's a bigger market, and they have deep pockets, right? Like, I would love to be able to, we sell the same products for 1/3 the price that they sell for in auto. And it's not because their products are more sophisticated. They're not. And it's funny, I've had conversations with CEOs of providers in that space, and they always say, they either say one of two things. They say, oh yeah, we've looked at your space and we could never get there because the margins aren't there. I was like, yeah, I get it. But we also see, we'll see them try, and that's painful to watch, right? We've seen multiple players from that space try and come into our space and just, fail miserably. And unfortunately take some dealers along with them, right? And it's just a waste a bunch of time, because it's so hard. Like, getting the data and getting the data right is impossible. Getting all the integrations you need right is we've been at this for 20 years. It's really hard to just come in and replicate it. It's not like auto. So, but what I'll say is, because they are bigger and there's deeper wallets, it really attracts a lot of the sort of the startup money. And so what we have seen, and it's really great, is we watch kind of what's going on there and what these startups are trying. And we steal the best ideas, just to be blunt about it, right? Yeah. And so that's worked out pretty well for us. We'll look at, like, what's going on there, what's making sense, and what can we adapt and bring into our space.
That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I get lots of questions from people who want to break into the industry and, kind of ask for guidance. And one of the things that I always kind of slide in there is that you got to learn how to read the room. And I think that there are so many people who are on that automotive side or come from some other professional segment that want to be involved in power sports. And I think that the worst thing that anybody can do who's going to go physically visit a power sports dealership is walk in wearing a suit and tie. You've lost all your credibility. We want people who've got dirt underneath their fingernails. We want people who are wearing jeans and, nice shirt, button up. I'm okay with that. Sport jacket, sport blazer, cruiser. I don't know what they're called. I don't even own one. I think that's probably a little bit too much. And I think that those people who walk into a power sports dealership like that, they've already lost. So you guys,
why is that? Why is that, Mark? Why is that? Let me ask you that.
We're simple people. So I mean, you look at a lot of the people who operate in the power sports arena do it because they're enthusiasts. And a lot of people who operate in the automotive arena either, are truly business people or, looking to make a bunch of money, or and one of the things that I've just never believed is that, people say, well, the clothes make the man. And I've always said it's the man that makes the man or the woman that makes the woman. I think I would much rather know the person inside and find the person who can do the job that I need to get done. The dumbest person in the world can wear a nice sport, whatever those clothes are called, a tie, the thing you put a knot on and all that.
Yeah.
It's not gonna make any difference. I want somebody who can solve the problem. But kind of my rambling segment here is that last week I flew up to Washington and attended LeadVenture / Dealer Spike's executive leadership team, and I think you had 76 of your team members up there. And I never got an email that said, here's how you got to dress and you need to wear a tie, and I wouldn't have shown up because I don't own one. But the people that were there were real people. I didn't see a bunch of people who were dressed up trying to impress everybody else. Everybody was dressed nice. Everybody was super respectful. I didn't see any egos in the room. I didn't see anybody that, felt like they were better than anybody else. You are easily accessible, I think to everybody, which is very different from one of the vendors in the industry I talk about, where when I went to the dealer show 3 or 4 years ago, the CEO actually had like a team of blockers that surrounded them so that dealers couldn't actually get to that person and talk to them. And, just insanely ridiculous to me that some people just think they're better than everybody else because they got a little degree from a college and they've got a dead sheepskin up on the wall that's got some words on it. But
I would say
my long rambling segment about the decline of society here is the question for you. Of all the people that I've met at LeadVenture, great experiences. I've just not met anybody that I don't think truly cares about giving dealers the best experience possible. Now, a lot of dealers out there probably maybe not going to agree with me and say, well, they did this wrong or they did that wrong. But, I truly believe that the leadership team has the dealer's best interest at heart. And yes, it's going to take a little bit of time for that to trickle down to the entire 1,700 or 1,800 employees that you've got working for you. But I think that's the direction that things are going. And my last question for you is, who's one employee in your organization that really exemplifies the best of your organization? And I know this is like asking a parent who your favorite kid is, and they'll all say, no, they're all my favorites. And the reality is, I don't care if you got 2 kids or you got 10, you got a favorite. You got one that you're like,
you don't have kids, Mark. You cannot say that. You do not have kids.
Which one's your favorite cat, Mark? Which one's your favorite cat?
Kyle, you've got 2 kids, and you look at one
3.
of them, and you're okay. You look at them, and you're like, yeah, that's the one who, when I'm in the nursing home, they're going to come and visit me, and they're going to pay the bills when they send them to them. And the other 2, they're a little flighty. So, and I'm not asking you to name like the dumbest employee that you got, Tim, but I'm just asking you to name who's that one employee who you really like to call out and just give a little public exposure.
Well,
to.
I'm gonna answer a different question first, and then I'll get to that, right? Because what you called out about the people that you've met is very intentional. Like and man, I'll tell you, people talk about culture all the time, and 90% of the time it's bullshit. I'm not sure if if it's okay to swear on this podcast, but you're
good. Yeah, we'll actually bold print that on the screen.
90% of the time, I've experienced it. I've worked at terrible culture companies where they're like, culture's our most important thing. Like, oh, come on. But I came from an environment where I saw the benefit of a really, really strong culture, and I inherited a good culture here, but we've really built on it. And I'll tell you, there's sort of 2 key things that I think separate us from a lot of businesses. And I'm not comparing us to others in the industry. I'm just comparing us overall. One is, and there's a great Simon Sinek TED Talk. If you don't know who he is or you haven't seen that talk, go watch it. We show it every year to our employees. And he really talks about most companies focus on what they do, and they don't focus on why they do it. We don't ever as a team talk about what we do. We always talk about why. And our why is to help the small independent dealer grow their business. Like, that is it. Like, we're here for that. And that's a sense of fulfillment, right? Like, churning out whatever it is you build, whether it's you're creating widgets in another industry or, what we do here, like that's not the fulfillment. The fulfillment is actually helping somebody, right? And we always, in our town halls, we always get customer videos like talking about like, here's how you guys have helped me. And and that's just so powerful, such powerful motivation for the people here. Right? And so everybody here is focused on how can we make the dealer experience better. And that's one of the reasons. The other thing that we're super watchful of is, are people team members or are they out for themselves? And I've seen several cultures where, the people who advance the most are the ones who are out for themselves. And I had, a great conversation with an executive who joined, she's been here for a while now, but she came from another company, big company in the auto space actually. And she said, I've never seen anything like this, Tim. She said, I'm so dependent on other people in this business. And whenever I ask for something, people drop what they're doing to the detriment of their own goals and, performance to come and help me out. And I'm like, yeah, those are the people that we hire here, right? And those are the only people that we keep. And we've exited a lot of people who don't fit that mold because we don't have the time and the patience for that. And that's not going to lead to the customer experience. Are we great at customer experience? No, we got a lot of work to do. And I think the dealers who don't feel like they're getting that sort of experience from that culture, that's on me, right? That's on me because and the rest of the exec team, because we haven't enabled those teams to deliver, the experience that we need to. And so it's not the frontline people because they are trying their damnedest, and I really see the passion in there. But we're surfacing more and more from them. I'm like, okay, well, what is it? What's holding you back, right? And so this is the long way to get to your question. So right now, like my kids, I don't have a favorite.
Thank you.
Depending on
you've got a bunch of employees right now who are on Kashi, and they're like, who's going to get named? I got $20. That is not me.
I will say, so I don't have a favorite amongst my kids, but depending on the day, depending on how they're behaving that day, right? Maybe I'm more fond of one than the other. So what I'll say is right now, the name that comes to mind is somebody that I didn't really know, a month ago. And because we've been getting deep into Dealer Spike, I've really, gotten to interact with a gentleman by the name of Jake Habel. And he is one of our tech support leads. And, what I love about Jake and what he is sort of epitomizing right now is, we started getting the frontline managers together. I'm meeting personally with the frontline managers every other week and saying, guys, what are the obstacles? What's getting in your way, right? This is not about turnaround time or, retention rates or CSAT, any of that, those metrics we're looking at, like what is getting in your way of making customers happy? And, Jake was like, oh, I got this. And he just wrote an email after the meeting. I don't know. He just didn't have his thoughts together in the meeting, but after the meeting, he just wrote an email like, hey man, if I just had these 8 things, I could diagnose a customer's issues with inventory so much faster and we'd be able to like solve their problems. And there's sort of like, so what I bring that up because I love Jake for surfacing that. And that's what I'm trying to get everybody to do is like, that's great, Jake. Guess what? Those 8 things, we knocked out 6 of them in a week and the other 2 will be done next week, right? So there were things that were like, he was just getting blocked, but we didn't have the visibility into it. And so why I bring him up is because he had I don't want to call it courage, but he was like, he cared enough. And he's like, yeah, you guys want to know? I'm going to share it with you. And we just got rallied a team together, knocked those things out. And so he comes to mind a lot because he was probably the first one to bring up like very tangible things that we can go fix. And he created that sort of feedback loop where others are going, oh, Jake spoke up, got his problems addressed. Here are my problems. Here are the things that I need. Great, more and more, right? Now we've got a list of 50 things that we're just cranking through. And it's fantastic because these are all customer experience enablers, but they're not things that you would have seen in an NPS score or a CSAT score or a turnaround time metric or a lot of the sort of the KPIs that you typically use to run a business. And so it's really against that customer scorecard. And so Jake's the man of the hour.
Wow.
Awesome.
He's gonna have to buy everybody drinks at the next meeting.
Yeah.
it's interesting because yesterday we did an online training session with our DP360 rep, and I think on us when we switched over to DP360, we were like, we can muscle through this. We don't need all the training, and I think we've been dealing with the consequences of not being committed to the program when we started. But it was interesting to me that we did an hour of training and the guys brought up all their issues and problems, and we kind of learned how to use the system, and we got some access enabled to some things we didn't even know that existed. Mm-hmm. And so I think we fixed a lot of problems. But at the end of that meeting, I asked everybody the question. I'm like, so we're good, got all your questions answered. There's nothing else we need to put on the table. And there's 3 sales guys and a couple of managers in the meeting, and they're like, yeah, we're all good. And I'm like, sure, there's nothing else. And they're like, yeah, no, we've got all our questions answered. And I'm like, what about this? And all 3 of the salespeople were like, yeah, that's a problem. I'm like, if I was there, I probably would have strangled one of them. I'd probably be looking for a bail bondsman right now. But I was just that ability to provide constructive feedback. It's almost like a dying art at this point in time. And kudos to your employee who has been able to teach us all something.
Yeah.
And I applaud you on the culture you're building, Tim. That's awesome. Start with Why is also a book from Simon Sinek that goes along with that TED Talk. It's absolutely fantastic. So that's awesome that you're building that type of culture. Thank you so much for the time, man. We really appreciate it. It's been extremely insightful, valuable. I think a lot of dealers will see a lot of really good insights from this conversation and the direction that you're taking this company in the next year. It's been eye-opening for sure. And leave us with one quote or statement that maybe you live by or that you want to leave for dealers, or just a quote or statement. Can you leave us with one, Tim?
Boy, wow, you got me on the spot here.
No pressure.
Yeah. There's a few floating around in my head. I got to try and pick the best one. I guess the one that we've been sort of throwing around here a lot lately is, and it sort of just builds off that culture conversation we were having, which is, you can go fast alone or you can go far together. And, and that's something that, I think that, that's not just internal. I think that goes externally as well, right? Like, I love that we're talking about, the other providers in the ecosystem here. Like, we have great relationships with them. We have great relationships with other companies out there that serve dealers who we compete with on some level, but we don't let that get in the way of actually digging in and how do we work together to develop the best customer experience. So I think that's a key one for the whole industry, which is whether it's the OEM, competitors of ours, other providers doing different things, like as an industry, we're going to go further together as opposed to us all just sort of optimizing for our own. And I think that's really critical. And the players who get that and put that forward, they're the ones we need to support.
Strong. Good. Mark, anything from you? Final words?
No, I appreciate Tim. I know you got a lot pulling at you, but as head of the Department of Digital Transportation, trying to move consumers to dealer showrooms. We appreciate you taking some time out of your schedule to chat with us. And I hope maybe a year down the road, we can come back and circle back and say, here's where we were and here's where we're at and here's where we're going now. I think it's been good. So I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thanks so much for inviting me, guys. I think it's just, we're on an amazing journey, and I appreciate your support on that. And and I think everybody's going to be really happy with where we're headed and the pace at which we're moving. So thank you guys so much for the opportunity.
Stay tuned. Yep. Thanks, Tim.
Appreciate you riding with us on Raw and Unscripted. KSU. We'll be back next week with more ways to rev up your dealership success. Until next time, keep the throttle wide open. Wide open.